Are we live?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Thanks for people joining us online on Facebook Live, and thanks for everybody here in the room for coming in. Every 6 months, we do kind of a business development meeting. You know, what's happening in the marketplace, and what are we doing as a team to help our customers be successful and so forth. So we get together, and we come from across the country, people from California and Texas and Michigan and Florida and the Big V, Virginia. Am I missing anybody? Oh, and New Jersey. We are in New Jersey. We're in Moorestown, New Jersey, corporate worldwide super headquarters of RunSignUp. So we typically get together for about 2 days and we discuss different things. One of our big topics of discussion is this book called The Amazement Revolution, and it's about how to amaze your customers. I'm not sure if we're going to go that far. It sounds like a lot of work.
The adequate revolution.
The somewhat superior revolution, because your competition really isn't that good either. So I just wanted to start off and say thank you, everybody, especially Johanna, for putting together the symposium. That was incredible. We had over 200 people this year. I think, you know, in terms of like attendees who actually participate, like run races or involved in the industry like that, not counting if you subtract off vendors, I think we're the second biggest conference next to our Running USA of real people coming. And like the education opportunity that we provide is just amazing. It's kind of one of our goals that I've always kind of wanted to get to a place where we can have like a real impact in educating and moving kind of our whole industry forward. And I think the symposium is our annual way to kind of bring that all together. Like it really brings together a bunch of the technology that we've done, a bunch of the work that we've done, but even more important, it brings like the customers, the people who are actually doing things together, and the idea that they're up there presenting about what they're doing and you know, kind of how they're being successful and sharing that with others. It's just a tremendous opportunity for everybody. I'm going to go to Brian's favorite chart. This is kind of how we run the company. So it's a set of guiding principles. The one in the upper left is this idea that I developed. It was my little terminology, and I'm going to go through this for two reasons. One is that we have some new people. And secondly, I want to make a point because of our growth here. But the first circle is something that I told my girls when I dropped them off at you know, at middle school and high school when they were younger. You know, there's you keep these 4 key things and you become like a happy person. So you work hard, you learn a lot, you have fun, and you're part of a team. And like, I think that should describe each of us individually. It's like, that's what each of us individually should do. And if we do that as individuals, then we'll be okay. And because we do this as a team, then we're kind of more cohesive and we can be happier and more fulfilled together. The middle one is actually really, really important, and it's the one I want to stress a little bit today. So we've grown to 29 full-time people now. We're getting to that point where we're not necessarily so small and tiny anymore. And because we're very distributed, we, you know, kind of count on this really working well, right? So it's this idea that you know, I trust Brian to go and take care of customers. Brian takes responsibility for doing that, and because he and I don't have to communicate, we can get along. It's efficient, right? So like every time Brian talks to a customer, and I don't have to do it, that's efficient. It's a one-touch type of a thing, right? The problem is that when you get into this larger entity, when you're counting on somebody else to do something, you kind of have to trust that they're going to do it. And because now, as an individual, you have 28 points of connection to the other people in the organization, how do you have trust that they're all going to take care of what they're going to do it? And is there a temptation sometimes to give somebody just to like slough it off? So Brian could slough that customer off to me because I could answer that question too, right? But is that really efficient, right? And we actually had a discussion kind of in this vein in the development meeting last Monday, because our development team has grown pretty large now. And, are we being efficient? Are people picking things up, and taking real responsibility, or are they trying to hand them off a little bit too soon, right? So you got to take a little bit of personal struggle. You have to kind of go that extra mile to kind of learn a little bit more, going back to the first thing, work a little bit harder, learn a little bit more. So I don't think that we have a real problem or issue here, but I want to call it out. And as we grow, and it's obvious that we are continuing to grow, that is going to become more and more important. So anyway, it's something to keep in the back of your mind. It's a foundational part of how we do what we're able to do. 29 people taking care of 16,000 races. It's freaking incredible. And that centerpiece is really how it gets done. We all trust each other. We all take responsibility for what we are doing, and therefore we become very efficient. Another analogy that I often use, and this is actually something I learned from the CTO at Bluestone, Mark Nigro, and he said everybody should be an API, right? You just call an API, right? And that's the limit of your communication. When you have to get something from that API, you call it, but you can count that API returns something valid to you. And then the final piece is that we keep a balance to our company between employees, customers, and owners. So philosophy, this has been the same slide, although Jordan made fun of my graphic, and because we actually have people that can do design work now, I got a new graphic to this. But it's the same thing that we've been saying from the very beginning. Basically, we're a tech company, and the thing about our industry is that there's these tens of thousands of micro communities. Might be races or timers or running stores or clubs or whatever, but none of them have critical mass to build good technology. Even the biggest races that do try to build their own technology aren't big enough. That's not their business, right? They're not technology companies. We're a technology company focused on this industry. Our goal is to try to tie the different pieces together to make our industry kind of more better and more efficient and so forth. And the way we do that is we build this very open platform. We stay on the cutting edge of technology, and we just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Company goals. The two company goals are really, really simplistic. It's just to have the running community use our web services that we build. And the second is to meet the guiding principle program. So all that stuff that we had talked about on that slide with the three circles, that's really what we're all about. In 2016, our goal was 4 million registrations, and we hit 4.2. We also hit, for the first time, complete 100% uptime. The year before, we had 8 minutes of planned downtime. So far this year, knock on wood, we're still at 100% uptime. This year we had 33 payments that were 1 day late, but that's not too bad considering we have 16,000 customers and we send out thousands and thousands of payments every day. 2017 sales goals, just a little bit of growth. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then, kind of continued organic growth into the future. So we've started utilizing this graphic to represent us. We're so much more than just a sign-up company now. What we really think about is this full life cycle of a race. And this is all built on our central database that we give to customers. And what this is really aggregating to is really it's really a CRM. You know, in the old days, you had SAP or Salesforce or whatever, and for enterprises, they would build systems that had everything integrated into them, and that made things very efficient. And we're doing the same exact thing for the endurance community. And you know, if you look at kind of the high levels of our features in each one of these areas, you know, from promotion to registration to fundraising to race day stuff, they all feed information into this common database. And so what you're going to see from us is kind of more and more exposure of that database over time. And towards the end, I'll talk about our, you know, some of our product directions. But the thing that I wanted to point out is the CRM. So what we're going to start doing in the not too distant future is, like, when you're in a race and you hit, you know, and you do a participant search because you want to help that customer out. What we're going to be showing is a system-wide view of that customer to what that race director or that timer or that partner is able to see. So if I'm a race director for multiple races, I would be able to see a participant across multiple races. I'd be able to see the total amount of registration fees that I earned from them. I'd be able to see the total amount of money that they donated. I'd be able to see the total amount of fundraising that they did. I'd be able to know which customers were important. And then when you think about that on a more aggregated scale, what you can do with, you know, like right now we call it a repeat participant list, but it's going to become much more a loyalty type program types of things that we're going to be driving towards. So that's kind of the architecture. That's kind of what we're building towards at a macro level. So growth. You know, we have this active lawsuits that are going on. They sued two of our customers, 1-3 and Night Nation, back a couple of years ago. Those lawsuits continue, and they have an impact of slowing us down to a certain degree. But in spite of that, we continue to grow. Last December, 1-3/You Run went back to active to settle their case. So, and we don't bear them any ill will for doing that. It's a burden to carry on these lawsuits and so forth. But the fact is that they were a very large customer. They processed a lot of registrations on our platform. And so what's cool to, you know, kind of the big question is, if you lose your number one customer, what impact does it have to you as a company, right? And the result is it's been good. So if you look at the TTM is trailing 12 months, our number of registrations is actually up quite a bit. It's flat when you compare like what we did last year. So we'll be at that, you know, 4.2 million type of range this year as compared to last year. But if you take out the 1-3 registrations from last year, we're up well over 20% in terms of the number of registrations, in terms of the number of races, in terms of the gross profit. And the gross profit is really the thing that we as a business care about the most, because that's what pays all of our salaries. It's what's left over after the credit card fees and our revenue share to partners and so forth. So it's really important that even with, and that gross profit number is counting the gross profit that 1-3 gave us. Not the legal fees. I'm not talking about the legal fees. I'm talking about the fact that we've grown from the time that 1-3 left us, and that is very important. And what's interesting is that we keep track of all the emails and calls that come in through info@RunSignUp, and this is the report that we look at every week. And it shows like the number of registrations within a week, It shows the rate per thousand, like that's the number of problem tickets or something like that. So like last week it was 3.07. It's the average run signup specific. So we get a bunch of things that are like, can I have a refund, which is really race specific issues. It was 2.12. So that means 2.12 people per 1,000 registrations got in contact with us. And then over here, it's the percentage growth in registrations. And this varies a little bit because of the way the weeks and the end of the months work out. So it's between like -2% and plus 19% in terms of the number of registrations. But look at the rate of the number of problems that are coming in. You're looking at -12, -23%. The reason is that 1 in 3, while they were a great big customer, they actually produced more kind of issues for us than the races that basically have replaced their business volume. What that means is that there's actually less problems coming in with greater gross profit behind them. And what that means is that we can hire additional people because we've grown, right? And if you look at the people that have come on since the meeting 6 months ago, they're all in the development organization. And that's because we've been able to kind of get by from a support, sales, customer service perspective because the volume that's coming in is keeping about even. And what we're able to do is invest more in the raw technology. And the hope is that you get this flywheel effect because the product becomes better, the product becomes easier to use, and we'll talk more about user experience stuff in a little bit. But because of that, you become a much more efficient organization and you become much more successful. So going back to that last slide, in spite of Active's best and most aggressive, in my mind, egregious attempts, we are growing. And our customers are benefiting from that because we're reinvesting in the technology that will make their lives better. So, and that is proven in the little market analysis that I do every 6 months. So what's interesting is that the number of races on Running USA, which I view as a very, very valid source of data, very, very highly curated. They get a lot via our API, via Active's API, but they curate it very well. The number of races is actually, from September of last year, has actually gone down by about 2,000. So it's down about 3 to 4%, which is kind of feels about right? There's less of these, everybody wants to generate a 5K to do a fundraiser for their PTA or whatever. If you look at the next the next month, so what I do is I look into October on the Running USA site and I count the number because they take an active feed and they take a RunSignUp feed, the percentage of races that are on each platform. And you can see why Active might not like us. The numbers kind of speak for themselves. Customers are coming to us because of our technology and because of our great customer service. We care about this stuff. And then if you look at the number of races next month, we're up like 300 races from September of last year in October. And which is kind of more than any of the other competitors that actually show that have a decent enough calendar that you can see how many races they have in the month of October. Some people obscure that. I don't know if that's because they don't want us counting or what, but it's pretty impressive the growth that's happening with us. If you look at the turkey trot count, similarly, the turkey trot count is just really growing quite well for us, and it's a significant difference from everybody else in the marketplace. If you look at the Alexa rankings, this is kind of like an approximate page view count for websites, and like ours we're 4,600th in the U.S. and we're 5,800th now in the U.S. And even though we've gone down in the rankings, our page volume has actually increased about 16% in that time. So obviously more people are going on the web, there's more stuff happening on the web, it's more competitive to be in that list. So going down isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we've done a pretty good job, and again we're right up there at the top. And then Eric, when he joined, he started kind of keeping track of the top 100 races. We are now number 2 to active in terms of the top 100 races. They've done a good job of consolidating at the top end of the industry. So with what's gone on with the acquisition of competitor group by Ironman, all the rock and roll races went over to active. So because of the fact that they have these 2 big series of Disney and rock and roll, they're kind of dominant in terms of the number of top 100 races. But after that, we're now number 2. So we've got 11 of those top 100 races, and so while some customers think of us as only for small races because we got 16,000 races using us, the fact is that we're really the only vendor out there that has a full enough technology platform that can invest enough in technology to make it for those races as well as for large races. And we'll see continued growth in this area, I'm sure. So 12-month roadmap focus. So I'll talk about each of these 5 areas.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Will CRM be across multiple races?
Yes, it will increasingly be across multiple races. CRM will increasingly be across multiple races. So the view we have of a customer, when you're looking at that, if you're a partner, you'll be able to see a participant across your 12 races or something like that. And then things like the repeat participant report will become available across that, and then you'll be able to do loyalty program sorts of things and so forth. It'll take 12 months for us to get where we really want to go, but as typical with RunSignUp, you'll see incremental change, every month for quite a while. So promotion. So we've made this huge investment, and people have only just started to see it. So the investment is in this underlying technology platform called RunSignUp Analytics. So we're now starting to track what's happening on our website. We are the Google Analytics for races, quite simply. And that will unearth really, really interesting information over time. We've started with our UX team and Jeff Cohart coming on board. We started to reshape what the users are seeing at a high level from a reporting perspective. So right now people are seeing a pretty graph, which is really nice and cool, and it makes our product look more interesting and exciting and so forth. But that's kind of just the start of it, really. It's the underlying data and engine that's really more interesting. And we've started to expose that data just last week. So this little red box down here is showing the number of registrations from email sources, right? So what's going to happen over time is we're going to add source information for every different type of source, from referral source, from affiliates, from web keyword searches, everything from Facebook ads. Everything will be able to start tracking the source of all of the registrations, and not just the registrations, but the dollars that are associated with that, and not just the raw dollars, transaction dollars for race fees as well as for donations. So peer-to-peer fundraising types of events will be able to get insights that they just aren't able to get today for what their marketing activities are. So this is the start of this, and where this goes, over the course of the next year plus, is it goes from just analytics that people are looking at to try to understand their races and their promotional aspects better, it goes to artificial intelligence, where the system can start doing smarter and smarter things to enable this kind of stuff. Race day scoring. So this is a huge investment for us. The fact is that probably 60% of the races in the US today are scored, meaning who finishes third in their age group, by software that is over 2 decades old, right? So RunScore and Race Director are both old pieces of software. There have been advances in technology since those were created. And by taking advantage of some of that fundamental technology, and also by the fact that Roger has all these arrows in his back from learning everything in the Race Director, we're going to be able to basically come up with a whole new fresh architecture and approach for scoring races. And all of our Race Director customers, and there are a lot, there were over 325 races just this past Saturday that were using Race Director to score them. That's a lot of races, a lot of people being scored with that software, and we're giving them a path into the future, right? So we're taking care of our customers to make sure that they'll have something to use for the next couple of decades, and we're building it in this modular way that allows it to be completely open. So we're going to be hooking to all the chip vendors. We'll be hooking, and it will be open such that different results platforms, different registration platforms will be able to hook into this. Even timers will be able to share their scoring mechanisms between each other. It's coming along. It's in its 3rd alpha right now. Hopefully beta in another couple months, and then hopefully production, maybe a little while after the turn of the calendar year. But this is a platform that's going to continue to grow, and what's really cool about it, because it's open, like the community can make it grow, right? So because the community will be able to come up with their own scoring mechanisms, and they'll be able to come up with their own report formats and things like that, and they'll be able to share that type of stuff. Because it's open, timers won't get locked into a particular hardware vendor, for example, so they'll be able to evolve with the technology that's happening in the marketplace. Anyway, this is really exciting stuff, because to have races, you need to have finishers, and you need to figure out who finished where and what and how. And this is the software that does that. It's unglamorous. Like, we will not get paid for this. And what's cool is that, or what's good for us, is that there's not that many technology companies that can actually afford to do this, right? You think about it, you looked at those market numbers of all the registrations. We're paying for this development with all the registrations that are happening on our platform, right? So it's that flywheel type of effect I talked about earlier. So CRM, so our system is a CRM system today, and customers use it that way every single day. What we're doing is we're kind of taking the next step of CRM and giving customers better views and actionable things they can do with that data, right? So one that kind of crosses over between promotion and a loyalty type of program is this last idea. So, like, we know who signed up for a race last year, right? Because it's in the data. And we know who signed up this year, but who has not signed up. And today we do an automated email for a price increase. And we'll send 2 different emails based upon the use pattern. Well, Facebook has this very powerful advertising capability called custom audiences. Why not create a custom audience ad for the people that have not signed up for the race 3 days before a price increase is going to happen. So there's a bunch of stuff that we can do in this area, and you'll see it come out incrementally over the next year. We're going to have a RunSignUp app. Jordan, you're happy, I'm sure. I don't know that we'll use your picture though. So Shelly and James and I had discussions last week, and the RaceJoy team, what we've been trying to do is make RaceJoy, transform RaceJoy into more end user type of an app to allow people to, look at their results or to find races and things like that. And what we realized is that, especially with the new UX team, and you look at, for example, the new profile page, and we don't have badges yet, but they're coming soon, right? So there's a bunch of exciting stuff that we've done in the RunSignUp platform, and why not leverage that better, right? So instead of settling RaceJoy the app, which is meant for GPS tracking and the RaceDay experience, why not create a RunSignUp app that ties into the web and makes that all a whole lot easier? So RunSignUp app will be something that our participants use, and one of the feature benefits is that they're basically going to be always logged in. If they're always logged in, then they can get some of those beautiful web pages that we're designing, like the profile page, like the upcoming badges page, and things like that. We can utilize the features of the phone, so we know where the phone is, so that when we do a search for races at a race calendar, it will be in a 25-mile radius of where the phone is. So we'll be able to do those types of things, and we'll be able to move like a whole lot quicker. So what's cool is that because we'll be able to move quickly, this should be out before the end of the calendar year. And finally, user experience. So we, because of the active lawsuits, so they were successful in slowing us down in the past, we had a decision to make whether we should focus on features or focus on user experience, because we couldn't afford to do both the past couple of years. And so we made a decision that it was more important to focus on the fundamental platform and the features and the database and the technology and stuff like that, and to delay hiring user experience until we could afford that. So that happened this year, and it happened in a pretty big way. Jeff Cohart joined us over the summer last year as an intern, and then he came in and joined us full-time when he graduated this past summer. And Jeff is more of a developer than a user experience person, but he's really helped the UX team. So all those pretty graphs that you see as a result of Cohart's efforts and so forth. Like when the registration counts appeared on your, if you're a race director, appeared on your promotion dashboard, that was because of Jeff Cohart. But what's really interesting is this user experience team. So Jeff Kiesel, we do have redundant Jeffs now. Jeff Kiesel, who hangs lights in our office because he's so tall, I took him down on Sunday with my stepladder. You weren't there to help me. Yeah, I know. But Kiesel, surprisingly, we worked together in the past, and knowing that I was here, he still joined anyway. He joined in April. Then Meredith joined in the summer, and then RaceIt did this transition program, and their lead user experience developer, Darren, was looking for new career opportunities, and Eric Cohn was kind enough to introduce him to us. And because of the increased business volume that we're seeing because of some of these transitions that are happening in our industry, Darren, we were able to bring Darren on board. So we went from 0 to 60, like in what, 5 months or something like that, and you won't believe what will happen over the next year with the user experience. So so I think that we had gotten into a place where we were kind of acceptable. We will be extraordinary over the next year. You're starting to see some of the stuff peek through. We'll do everything very incrementally, like we normally do. But each of these folks, we're all collaborating together, but each has kind of a separate focus. One, Jeff is focused on the race dashboard, what race directors are seeing. Meredith is going to focus on what the user experience is coming on board, so the race website and all the interactions that are happening there. And then Darren is working on new templates. So you know how every race has the same kind of looking template for their race website. So Darren will be introducing new template, new look and feel, a new way that the registration flow is going to happen. And we've got a session in the afternoon to show and discuss some of that. The really interesting thing, he and Ryan are working together, is that hopefully sometime again around the turn of the calendar year, is that if a race has their own URL and their own website that they host and everything, we'll be able to support that. So if it's myrace.com, it won't have to be runsignup.com/myrace. It can be myrace.com. So think of us as kind of a one-stop website hosting and registration and promotion platform for races. And there's a lot of races out there that have their own domain. And they just don't have the expertise to keep managing it and so forth. And a lot of race websites don't look very good. And when you see Darren's stuff this afternoon, you'll know they don't look good compared to what we'll be able to do. Anyway, that's it for the public portion of the presentation. Any questions while we're on Facebook Live? Anything from Facebook Live? Nobody cares. Okay. Yeah. My daughters didn't dial in and make fun of their dad or anything. Okay.
Well,
It keeps crashing.
there's like a bunch of different posts on trying to look at each post, but I don't see anything.
Okay.
We've gone live like 4 times.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yay, technology.
Yay, technology. Nice job, Andrew. or is that Zuckerberg's fault? All right. We'll close this side down then. Thanks.